Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Recha Kodesh. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of Ecclesiastes, the 10th chapter. Dead flies cause the ointment of the apothecary to send forth a stinking savor, right? And the ointment of the apothecary is like a good smelling perfume, right? That is put together by an apothecary. Let's get into that word here. But it sounds like one that makes these kinds of ointments and concoctions, right? Compounder, a mixer, perfumer, right? So one that actually makes these things. And yeah, as good. So basically, as good smelling as an ointment can be, if a dead fly or a dead animal falls in there, it throws off the scent and makes it smell bad. So doth a little folly him that is in reputation for wisdom and honor. So you could be known as being very wise, which would be like that good smelling ointment, but a little bit of, folly, something dumb or something stupid that you can do can ruin that reputation, just like a dead fly can throw off or ruin the good smelling scent of an ointment. A wise man's heart is at his right hand, but a fool's heart at his left. And right hand and left, they often symbolize like righteousness, right? And the left symbolizing wickedness. Like sometimes you'll say a left hand practice, which is something that is like off or not to be desired, versus the right. So a wise man's heart or his mind is at his right hand. Okay, that is the seeking after the right things to do. But a fool's heart, a fool's mind or thoughts is at his left. That is seeking the wrong things to do, right? The things that are not profitable. Yea, also, when he that is a fool walketh by the way, his wisdom faileth him. And he saith to every one that he is a fool. And this is basically saying when a fool is walking by, because of his folly, his wisdom faileth him, meaning that it is apparent, even just by the way he walks and his mannerisms and the way he moves and interacts, that he is a fool. So by his just him, walking out in the open alone and the way he moves and interacts is likened unto him telling everybody, I'm a fool. So in the NLT, it says, you can identify fools just by the way they walk down the street. NIV, even as fools walk along the road, they lack sense and show everyone how stupid they are. If the spirit of the ruler rise up against thee, and like I'll give an example, right? Sometimes you may look at people when they're even driving, and you look, or even when people are just walking, and you look at how they move, and you're like, yo, are you telling me that looking right up ahead of you and seeing what was going on in front of you, you thought it was wise to continue walking down that path? You didn't foresee that what just happened to you could have happened. You're walking, right? And you see two men get into an altercation and it's getting very, very heated, and they're like ready to go at it. And then they start throwing hands, and you think it's a good idea to keep walking straight right through the midst of them. And then one of them throws a hand, and then the other one blocks it, and boom, right under your left eye. Boom, now your cheek is gone. People, if somebody's watching you, they're going to be like, well, yeah, you kind of deserve that. Like, obviously, common sense will tell you, you know what? There's an altercation going on here. Let me go the other way. Let me not walk through in the middle of an altercation. See? So by the way that, even they move, it shows, yeah, this person lacks even common sense. Verse 4, if the spirit of the ruler rise up against thee, leave not thy place, for yielding pacifieth great offenses. So if the ruler rises up against you, don't leave your post. Don't try to, leave your duty, but rather yield. The scriptures say that soft words turneth away wrath. So yielding pacifieth great offenses. If you humble down, you seek mercy, it can calm down, whatever offense it is that caused the ruler to rise up against you. There is an evil which I have seen under the sun, as an error which proceedeth from the ruler. Folly is set in great dignity, and the rich sit in low place. So it says here, there is another evil I have seen under the sun, that is on the earth. Kings and rulers make a grave mistake when they give great authority to foolish people and low positions to people of proven worth. See, so it's like the scale is flipped, where those that are more deserving and it would make more sense to put in a high position, they're brought low, and rather folly or fools are put in a high place. One example is what Rehoboam did. Rehoboam um, disregarded the wisdom of the elders that had served during his father's time, and rather exalted the folly that was spoken to him by his friends, his childhood friends he grew up with. I have seen servants upon horses and princes walking as servants upon the earth. Right, in the NLT it says, I have seen servants walk riding horseback like princes, and princes walking like servants. And this can also be applied to us, the like prophetically, looking at how the things played out between Jacob and Esau, right, where the servants here are really the Esau, but it is even, I'll see if I can find it, but there was a statue that even represented this, where you saw, I forget who it was exactly. Was it Theodore Roosevelt or somebody sitting on a horse, actually, literally, and then walking by was it was either a Native American or a Judite. So the princes, which are the rightful heirs, which represent Israel, are the ones walking as servants upon the earth, right? Put in a low place. And the servants, which are in this case the Edomites, that are really the ones to serve us, are the ones high up or exalted. Okay, now let me see if I can actually find that image. Is it? Yeah, there it is. This is the statue here. I think this is not so bad. Yeah. So you have here, right, signifying what I just said. You have here, which he's an Edomite, so really he's likened onto a servant in the grand scheme of things. And here you got what? A southern kingdom and the northern kingdom, right? The Gadites here, they're of the northern kingdom, and this is like a Judite of the southern kingdom, walking, right, as where you got and they're really the princes, right? Israelites, Yasharallah, prince of power. And then here you have the actual servants that are walking or sitting upon horses. Okay, so just symbolizing that, when you look at it through those lens in Ecclesiastes 10 and 7. He that diggeth a pit shall fall into it, and whoso breaketh an hedge, a serpent shall bite him. Digging a pit is like setting a trap, and you're going to fall into it, right? If you try to set a trap, you're going to fall into the trap you made. And breaking an hedge, and hedge is, let's go into that word hedge. It says here a fence or a wall, right? And usually a fence or a wall is used to defend. Okay. So let's read this here in the NLT. It says, when you dig a well, you might fall in. When you demolish an old wall, which is like onto a hedge, you could be bitten by a snake. A snake might be hiding in the wall, in the crevices of it. Whoso removeth stones shall be hurt therewith, and he that cleaveth wood shall be endangered thereby. When you work in a quarry, stones might fall and crush you. And this is what a quarry is. Quarry. It says a place, typically a large deep pit from which stone or other materials are or have been extracted. So while working in an environment like that, you run the risk of being crushed by a stone, that breaks off from a larger piece and then falls on you. When you chop wood, there is a danger with each stroke of your axe. Verse 10, if the iron be blunt, and he do not whet the edge to sharpen it, then must he put to more strength. But wisdom is profitable to direct. It says, using a dull axe requires great strength, so sharpen the blade. That's the value of wisdom. It helps you succeed. Verse 11, surely the serpent will bite without enchantment, and a babbler is no better. And here what it's basically saying is, dealing with the babbler that is no better, being likened unto the serpent biting without enchantment, is, when you're babbling, right, it's like having careless speech, right, or untimely speech, and that can cause actual harm. Like you can say something very wrong while babbling that can cause immediate harm, just like a snake that'll bite you. A charmer is one that tries to charm or control a snake. That's the enchantment that he's trying to use to control it. So just as a babbler's words can cause immediate harm, unwarranted, without you even seeing it coming, by saying the wrong thing, that is likened onto how a snake, before you even get a chance to charm it, can bite you, and at that point, you cooked, you going downhill. And these examples Solomon gave is that these are things that happen, right? These are possibilities. If you dig a well, there's a chance you can fall into it, right? And if you're breaking down a wall, there's a chance that this harm can come to you. The words of a wise man's mouth are gracious. But Salakia, the point of him saying that is, you have to be aware of the dangers in the things that you do. Okay? Verse 12, the words of a wise man's mouth are gracious, but the lips of a fool swallow up himself. So the words of a wise man's mouth are gracious, right? Meaning that a wise man knows what to say and when to say it and how to say it to where it's beneficial to himself and to others. But the lips or the words of a fool will swallow up himself. It'll work even against him. Okay, cause either a bad rep. Even the scriptures say that a fool's mouth calleth for many strokes, which are like beatings or punches. The beginning of the words of his mouth is foolishness, and the end of his talk is mischievous madness. So from the opening of his mouth to start speaking is already folly and foolishness coming out of his mouth. And the end, when you finally hear the point that is being made, it's just madness. A fool also is full of words. A man cannot tell what shall be, and what shall be after him, who can tell him? It says they chatter on and on. No one really knows what's going to happen. No one can predict the future. NIV, and fools multiply words. No one knows what is coming. Who can tell someone else what will happen after them? So it's a bit of like both in the sense of a fool's babbling, as it mentioned here, being mischievous, having no point to it. You don't know where he's going with it or where he's going to land with it. Okay, but also on the other sense, of dealing with unpredictability, right? It says a man cannot tell what shall be, like what's about to happen, or what's going to happen after him, what's going to happen next. The labor of the foolish wearieth every one of them, because he knoweth not how to go to the city. It says fools are so exhausted by a little work that they can't even find their way home. Oh, my Lord. The toil of fools wearies them. They don't know the way home. So because of their folly, a simple task, which can save you time and energy, they do it the hard way, or they struggle more through it because of their ignorance. A fool, right? I'll give you a modern day example. And a fool here is not just like somebody that's just dumb, like an airhead, but it's like lacking perception, prudence, those kinds of traits. So you may, like looking at this example, you make things harder for yourself because you're acting in folly. For example, you need to get gas in your car and you're going for a long trip and you say, it's fine, I'm already running late, I'm gonna just get it on the way. And then forget that you got to be on the highway for like 40 miles and your gas is already on E. And it's like the next stop you can make is 20 miles away. And then now all of a sudden your car stops and you're on the side of the road. You're making that journey harder for yourself when you could have just thought things through and said, well, okay, there's a chance that I might not see with this where I'm going. Maybe what if I have to take a detour? What if I don't make it to the gas station that's on the highway or my destination in time, while I'm already closer to a gas station by where I live? Let me just get it now. I might be a little later, but let me just get it now. Verse 16, woe to thee, O land, when thy king is a child, and thy princes eat in the morning. NLT, what sorrow for the land ruled by a servant, and land whose leaders feast in the morning. And what that means is, I think in another verse it'll go into it, which eat in due time. Let me see. Yeah, there it is. The contrast explains that to you. So when it says that eat in the morning, like holding a feast, usually in the morning is where, whether it's like assemblies, councils, meetings, announcements, certain things will be taken care of, right? But here what it's saying is the land suffers when the king is a child or immature, because they won't prioritize the necessity that needs to happen first, right? The first thought, when you look at a child, right? If a child, let's say it was, you got them a gift yesterday, they played with it all night. When they wake up, before even wanting to brush their teeth, take a shower, eat food, the first thing they're trying to go to is that same fun, right, that they had yesterday. So a king that is a child that does not prioritize what needs to be done, or the princes, which are rulers under him, that eat in the morning, it doesn't mean that eating in the morning, eating breakfast is bad, but it's basically prioritizing that spirit of feasting and mirth over actual responsibilities or duties of the kingdom. And that's why the contrast says here, blessed art thou, O land, when thy king is the son of nobles. Why? Because they're going to be raised up in the correct way, right? They're going to have the best tutors. They're going to be taught, or traits in different avenues, right? How to govern the kingdom, different languages, how to judge certain matters. So they'll be raised up by the time it's time for them to rule. They will be, they would have had the necessary experience needed. And thy princes eat in due season. You see, so they handle responsibility first. They take care of what needs to take care of, and when there's a time and place for everything, right? There's a time for feasting, right? And there's a time for getting things done. For strength and not for drunkenness, right? They eat for strength, meaning of necessity, and not for drunkenness, not just for partying, getting wasted, and just for fun, because they're the ones who are in charge of making sure everything is running right in the kingdom. But much slothfulness, or by much slothfulness, the building decayeth, and through idleness of the hands the house droppeth through. Right, because if you're slothful and you're not taking care of upholding the building, what do you think is going to happen? It's gonna start to, if you own a house and you don't take care of it out of laziness, the house is going to break down. Okay, because you have to upkeep, you have to mow the lawn, you have to make sure that the water is working right. When it's heating time, you got to make sure that everything, your vents, you're clean, like all these things are running right. You got heating, proper heating, pipes are all good, there's no leak. Right, laziness leads to a sagging roof, idleness leads to a leaky house, right? And through idleness of the hands the house droppeth through. That's that leaking. A feast is made for laughter, and wine maketh merry, but money answereth all things. Right? Just another wise saying. Yes, when you are like, somebody's like, yo, I'm gonna throw a party. What's the initial thought, right? Yeah, I'm gonna invite my friends, I'm gonna bring food, wait, what do we having? What are we doing? It's like a occasion for joy. Most of the time when a party or a feast is made, a banquet, you're hearing laughter, you're hearing music, you're hearing joy. Nobody hears, yeah, I'm about to throw a feast, and they're like, all right, let me find my funeral clothing. Let me go find mourners and professional criers, people that cry, and come in there with a somber spirit. As it says, and wine maketh merry. And that's why even people that are sad, they drink, because it'll make them feel better or make them feel happier. And those that are happy drink because it'll make them feel even more happy. But money answereth all things, right? At the end of the day, that's why he mentioned before in the previous chapter that money is a defense. When you're in trouble, money will get you out of it, right? If somebody, like most often than none, if somebody is going through something, money can some way somehow make it a bit better. Okay, as you know, as little that people want to believe that, and trying to sound as noble as possible, that's still the case. That's still the truth. A lot of problems that people face in the world is due to finances. You're not rich enough. You don't have enough. You don't have enough, whatever the case is. So money answereth all things, because it is able to both get you a lot more things, get you a lot more places, open more doors for you, and get you a lot out of a lot more situations. Curse not the king, no, not in thy thought, and curse not the rich in thy bedchamber, for a bird of the air shall carry the voice, and that which hath wings shall tell the matter. So be careful what you say. Don't speak evil of royalty or those higher up, because you never know. When it says a bird of the air, it's not that an actual bird is going to, write down what you were saying and then go and snitch on you. But in other words, you never know who's listening. And eventually, one way or another, word gets back to the king. And now you're in a bad position. And that brings us to the end of the book of Ecclesiastes, the 10th chapter. Lord willing, that was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Raka Kodash. And until next time, Shalom.